Hello and welcome to the Fierce Urgency of Now in Today's Schools podcast. I am Dr. Cynthia Mama J. Johnson, a voice of hope in education, and I will be your host. Thank you, as always, for joining me for another episode. Before we jump in, let me remind you why we gather. The Fierce Urgency of Now in Today's Schools podcast is dedicated to disrupting, interrupting, and dismantling barriers to changing student outcomes. Why? Because our children need us now more than ever before. So we've got to come together to figure out what we need to do to meet students where they are. Not leave them there, but to lift them to a whole new level. I want you to know today my guest is one of those individuals that is meeting students and teachers and families exactly where they are. And she is not just elevating the children, she is elevating the entire village. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket to the family.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get into this conversation today.
Yes, yes, there's so much to talk about. You do so much work that you do for children, for educators, and for families. But I want to jump in and just tell the audience just a little bit about you. And then I always step back and allow you to take a moment to introduce and tell more about who you are. Let me begin. Let me scroll here. Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket is a wife, mother, principal, TEDx speaker, author, and president of the Maryland Association Elementary School Principals as of August 1 of this year. That's very exciting. When I saw that post, I was excited, so very excited, and so very proud of the work that you're doing. With decades as a teacher and a leader in public education, she has earned the reputation as a strong instructional leader, passionate educational advocate, and dedicated mentor. As principal of a national blue ribbon school in Maryland, she is a lifelong learner who strives for excellence not only for herself, but also for everyone she serves. Rachel, please tell us the rest of the story.
There's a lot more to be shared as it's unwritten, but I'm just grateful to be in the world of public
Yes.
education. I am a third generation educator. So my
Oh,
grandmother had her teaching degree from Coppin State, and then she went on to get her master's from the Johns Hopkins University. My mother has
yes.
her teaching degree from Morgan State University. I have my teaching degree from Temple University and went on to get my master's from McDaniel and my doctorate from Trevecca Nazarene University. And education has always been an important part of our life. I
Yes.
grew up loving school, and I tell people that I love school so much that I never left school. I've been in school now for over 40 years of my life.
Yes.
I'm
Wow.
someone who grew up in my district, the Howard County Public School System. I love being here. I love being here as a student, and I came back to teach now in my 21st year here. So my career started as a kindergarten teacher, and through the help of my mentors, I was able to go through and discover more leadership and more opportunities. And until one day, one of my mentors said to me, have you ever considered being a principal, Rachel? I can see that in you. And my answer was no, absolutely not. Under no circumstances will I ever become a school principal.
Wow.
Well, she knew better than I did. And so she just quietly continued to mentor me and give me opportunities to lead, give me opportunities to serve.
Love it.
And I absolutely fell in love with being a school leader. And so I went back to get my certification from McDaniel in leadership and was promoted later that year. So
Good.
I went from kindergarten to an assistant principal. And then I was 4 years. I had an amazing mentor as a principal, and she was so patient with me as I was coming out of kindergarten and had a lot to learn.
Right.
And I loved being an assistant principal. And when it was time for me, she was getting ready to retire. We had a conversation. She said, Rachel, you're ready. And I'm like, I don't know yet. And she said, you're ready.
Yeah.
And so I went through that application process, was promoted, and I was able to stay in my current school, which was really special. I was
Yes.
able to stay at my school for a total of 9 years, which was a huge blessing. I forgot to mention that my first year of the principalship was during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so that was another source of
She'll
learning for
push you
me.
in.
Yes. Yeah, but the skills that I learned there, I'm still applying today, and I am grateful for that time. I learned a lot about myself, a lot of soul searching. And, a
Yes,
lot of the work that I'm doing today was based on my experiences that I had during COVID-19. I talk
yes.
a lot about resilience. I talk a lot about work-life boundaries because I didn't have any, and I paid the price dearly for that. And so now part of my work as a speaker and an author is to make sure that leaders have what we need, that the capacity is
Right.
there so that we can serve everyone else as best as we can, but not forgetting to take care of ourselves, right?
Yes.
Um, and then in my newest capacity, I have been the president-elect of Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals for the past year. And now I'm stepping into the new role as the president. And I'm
Yes.
just so grateful for the opportunity to continue to advocate, to connect with leaders across our state and beyond, and to do the work of serving children and families outside of my district and beyond. So I'm very grateful for my journey so far, and there's more to come.
Oh, I know it. I know it. I'm telling you, you are still writing chapters, and that is so exciting. Let me tell you what, we're going to get into your new book here in just a few minutes.
Yes.
And those that are watching right now, it is right over my right shoulder. So we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. And she's got it right there in her hands. There's a couple things I want to talk about that you just said in your introduction. I love the fact you said your first year was that COVID year. Well, let me tell you what the lessons I learned during that COVID year. I had gone in and a superintendent said, "Hey, Mama J, I need you. I need you. I know you've led multiple multi-million dollar renovation projects in schools, and we have a $50 million renovation project, and I need you to come co-lead this project." And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, okay." And he goes, "And yes, and while you're here, I need you to serve as the interim principal." Oh, well, okay. So I wholeheartedly did it. Went in, drove back and forth an hour a day to be able to
Wow.
get to work. But you talk about those lessons that you learned during COVID. That's one of the things that I hold so close to me. I talk about in my journey as an educator. I think about going all the way back to when we had Columbine, and we look at
Mm,
what happened with 9/11 and how
yeah.
we've gone through all these different things. I think about even the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, and not to talk about political issues, but on that particular day, we happened to be on a live broadcast on a news
Mhm.
station talking with students from my
Right.
school. And I just remember how they responded when they saw what was going on, because
Yeah.
what we were on the show for turned into something completely different. And then I look at where we are right now in our field of education, where we have just received monies back to be able to do the
Yes.
work and take care of those students that some people may see as marginalized, but I see them as students of excellence. And those students we have to lift. And I talked about how you lift the students and the teachers and the families. I mean, that is so important. You see it in the pictures that you
Mhm.
post. You
Thank
see it
you.
in the smile that you carry. So that's why I wanted you here today. So let me begin with the very first question. So Dr. Edoho-Eket, I want to know what brings you to the work and what keeps you doing the work.
I think for me, I have always had a connection to school. I am someone that loves school. I never left school, as I said before. And so I had such a great experience growing up. And part of my work now is just ensuring that the type of environment that I grew up in, that I had as a student, is something that I want to replicate for every child. I
Yes.
want every child to feel
Oh,
included. I
I
want
love
every
it.
child to have a sense of belonging. I want every child to feel close with his or her principal, their
Yes.
principal. Part of the work that guides me every day is the fact that I grew up during a wonderful time. I loved going to school. I simply adored my teachers. I loved my administrators. And that's something that I want to replicate for every child. I want
Yes.
every child to be excited about coming to school every day,
Yes.
to want to see their teachers, to literally run into school. We have children who run into school every
Yes.
morning. That was me as a child. And so that's what brings me in the work, and that's what keeps me in the work.
Yes.
I know that there are some hard things about this job as a school leader. I know as a teacher, there are many, many challenges as staff members, but ultimately, we're here to serve children.
Right.
We're here to serve their families.
Right.
And if we can make a difference in a child's life, a family hope, share a resource with someone that
Yes.
makes a difference for them, then
Right.
that's what we're going to do. And
Right.
we've been doing that since the beginning of time, and we will
Yes.
continue to serve children that way.
I love that. I love that. And when you talk about, giving families hope, when you give a child hope, not only are you impacting that child, but you're also impacting that family. I'm telling you, I've seen it for
Yeah.
over 30 plus years to see how that impacts the family and things as well. So, I'm gonna tell you, you don't know this about me, but I have my tambourine, okay?
Oh,
Because when I am not here, and when I am not the educator, I am the choir director, okay? So I just want you to know that you
I
said
love
some
it.
things that really has my soul stirring. There's always something in me that just gets excited when I hear people talk about why they do the work and what keeps them doing the work. It's hard. It's hard. If somebody would say, "Oh, well, you don't do much." Do what? It is challenging. And there were days, I'm gonna keep it real because this is Mama J. I didn't get the nickname Mama J because I gave it to myself when I was 21 years old. My students started calling me Mama J because they said, "You take such good care of us. We're gonna
Yeah.
call you our mama. We're gonna call you
Oh,
Mama J." And all those years, still, I am still Mama J. But
yeah.
I am Mama J because I stood the test of time.
Hmm.
And all the things I think about back in the early 90s and going through the Rodney King riots
Hmm.
and just how that transformed our communities, but how not only did we have to connect with children back then, but how we have to connect with those children and things today. So I love the fact that you're still doing the work. I'm still doing the work. I'm doing the work in a completely different way, but I love
Right.
the work and the call that is up on my life. So
Yes.
let's jump to the second question. The second question centers the um, title of the podcast itself. So, from your lens, what is the fierce urgency of now in today's schools?
There's a lot of urgency. In fact, there's a lot of urgency covering a lot of different
Right,
areas.
right.
I would say coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's definitely an urgency around students' attendance and making sure that we have created a space where students feel that sense of belonging and
Yes.
want to come to school. We know that when we were away and disconnected, that
Ah,
disconnect sometimes persisted with some families, with some
yes,
students.
yes,
And that is real, right? That's
that
a
is
real
real.
feeling that some families have and that some students have. And so part of our urgency is how do we reach students who are feeling that way, families who are feeling that way? What can we do to present a welcoming space for
Yes,
families? And that takes time, right?
yes,
Some of
it
the
does.
families, that's personal conversations, that's invitations either into school or us going into neighborhoods, right?
Right,
So
right,
that's another thing that we've been doing is meeting families where they are, not just
right.
requiring that families come to us. We need to push into areas and neighborhoods as well
Right.
to show that this is a partnership. Another urgency for me, special education. We have a lot of students who have varying needs. How are we programming for students who
Right.
have neurodivergent needs? How are we
Yeah.
programming for students who have emotional and social needs? So that's another
Good.
urgency. There are shortages, right?
Right.
There are real shortages that are happening both with educators and with school leaders. And we
Right.
know when we're operating from a shortage, that means someone's needs are not being met.
Right.
And so part of our advocacy is looking back at our pipelines, figuring out how can we work with as low as high school. We have some students in our school building
Uh-huh.
who we have been priming as student interns and future teachers.
Right.
They're in our buildings once or twice a week getting that practice working with
Yes.
children. And
Yes.
then we
Yes.
have partnerships with the universities where if they've completed a certain number of hours, they get a scholarship. And then once they
Yes.
complete the university, we are recruiting them back
Woo!
into our schools. So there's a lot of things that we can do and that we are doing to help improve our current situation.
Oh, my goodness, you have said so much. You got me on fire right now. Let me come down for a second.
Yeah.
I love when you talked about you go into the neighborhoods. In 1999, when I was a middle school
Mhm.
principal, my first time as a middle school principal, I saw that there were children coming to school, but the families didn't want to come. But you know what? One of the things I learned is that when families haven't had good experiences, as parents,
Yes.
as individuals, haven't had positive experiences, they don't want to come to school.
Yeah. The
So what
trust.
did we do? I created this process entitled Taking It to the Neighborhoods. And one morning I was working and I kept singing, taking it to the streets. And then I went, no, I gotta take it to the neighborhoods. And since that time, I've been talking about the neighborhoods, and you're going to see something about that coming up here real soon. But I'm talking about that part that you said you have to go to where people are. You can't
Yes.
just say, oh, come to us. They don't want to come to us. The families, it's not that they don't want to be there, but maybe their experience hasn't been there. But when you go to where they are, when you go to their homes, when you go to their community centers, when you go to the churches, I think about one community years ago that I went to where people didn't want to come out, but I knew where people showed up on Wednesday nights.
Mm,
So I couldn't go in as the choir director. I went in as Mama J,
right.
but I had a chance to connect with families. And I'm telling you, that changed the entire relationship of that community that I worked with for years. In fact,
Yeah.
it got to be so much that I could not even go to restaurants to eat anymore
Hmm.
because there were so many people that wanted, oh, Mama J's in town. I have to eat. But I
Yeah.
said all that to say is that there's so many things that you listed off, that there's an urgency in our schools. It's not just one thing. I had someone just not too long ago kind of criticize the fierce urgency of now. I said, well, first of all, I'm using the words from Dr. King from his "I Have a Dream" speech. That's where those words
Right.
come from. The fierce urgency of now, and I added in today's schools because that same urgency that Dr. King
Yes.
talked about racism and segregation and discrimination. That's that same urgency that we have to come together right now to be able to take care of and connect with our children. That's that urgency. And this person said to me, when you talk about urgency, you put on too much pressure.
Mm.
We can't sit back. We can't lay back and act like nothing's happened. Now, that doesn't mean that we just walk around and work haphazardly. We're not saying that. But the
No.
fierce urgency of now means that we go in with a
Mhm.
focus to make sure we meet children, families, teachers where they are. But let's talk about the children right now.
Yeah.
We have to meet them right there. And day by day, minute by minute, second by second, lift them higher and higher and higher. And I'm telling you, there's nothing better when you see a student come back after all those years and say, what you did made a difference in my life.
Yes. I still have relationships with my first class.
Yes.
I taught them in 2005, 2006. That was my
Woo,
first year.
yes, 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 yes. So
So
you do.
they are well out of college and they're and into their careers and beyond. And it's really beautiful to see them as adults because I still see the 5-year-olds there,
Yeah,
but I also see the grown men and women, the adults, and just how beautiful they are
right.
and how well they're doing. It's a blessing to be able to see children grow up. They'll
Yes.
tell me I still look the same. I said, nope.
Yeah.
They certainly look different. They're taller than me now, and some are local, some I'm still in contact with, some are in law school, some have continued their work,
Yes.
and I told them I'll be at their graduations when they
Yes.
finish there too.
I love it. I love it when I had many, many students come home back to this area in the Kansas City area where I live for the 4th of July. They said, Mama J, come over. And I mean, it was like I was there. I mean, at that time, I was a speech and debate coach. So I saw some of my forensic students. I saw some of my national champions. I
Mhm.
saw some of those students that, they were kind of quiet, but they were like, Mama J, Mama J. And there's nothing better. You said that yours are 25. Well, I have some that's just a couple years older than that. I'm just going to say that right now, if you will, because I was just
Yes.
4 years older than my students when I first started.
Right.
And when they started
Wow.
calling me Mama J, I'm like, what? Mama J? I'm like, I don't want to be anybody's mama.
Yes. You're too young at that time.
And
Yes.
and I'm just going to say this: God had another plan because my students called me Mama J, and I have no natural children of my own, but I have my
Wow. You
students.
have many
They
children.
think enough of
Yes.
me that they still lift me as Mama J.
Yes.
So
Beautiful.
I love your story and just your energy and things that you bring. I've seen it on video, but now to be able to see it and experience it right now, it really is very,
Oh,
very
thank
encouraging.
you.
So I want to ask you this last question here, or next to the last. What are you willing to disrupt, interrupt, or dismantle to ensure that students have access and opportunities to thrive?
One of the things that I've been really thinking about as leaders is, in our role, we have that advocacy part.
Mhm.
We have the opportunity to
Yeah,
really
yeah,
push back and challenge some systems that are in place. Right now, it's still in process, but when we look at the board policies and across the state, right, we're looking at curriculums, we're looking across a lot of different things that impact. We really want a seat at the table when
right,
those decisions are being made as school
right,
leaders, because
right,
we are the people that do get to see everything on the ground level.
right.
We get to see how what a policy looks like, and then
Yes,
how it can be
yes,
implemented, and
yes,
how it impacts families, right? How
yes,
it impacts staff and students. So
right.
I'm on a not on the granular level. I'm kind of on the level where I want to be at this table before those decisions
Right,
are made,
right,
because it is so critical that we work together with our state boards of education and with our boards of education in our local districts.
right.
Principals want a seat at the table because we want to be able to share what is happening, what is
Yes,
working, and what is
yes,
not working.
right.
What resources do we need? We really have to attack
So
it
good.
from that level, because I feel that that's where the decisions are made. We don't want to be after the fact trying to
Right.
to get resources after the fact. We want those up front. So
Yes,
part of it for me is looking at the systems itself and figuring out how principals, how assistant principals, how district leaders, school leaders can get at the table
yes.
and really be in a position to advocate for what we need.
Woo, woo. Well,
Yeah,
let me tell you something. I know, first of all, that you're going to get at that table. And I believe, from what I've heard from you today, that you don't need a seat because you're going to walk in and you're going to have your own chair and you say, I'm here.
I love it.
And I have a message and I have something to say. I watch your governor. I love him.
Yes.
I don't know him, but I watch how Westmore comes in and how he just works with everyone and how powerful to be able to partner with that voice that is also out there in the world. That is so absolutely phenomenal. So I want to switch gears because I don't want to just spend all of the time on just the questions that I have, but I want to jump into your new book. I know there's other books that you have. Hold it up for us one
Yes.
more time,
Yes.
if you will. I love it. So you have it in front of you and you have it behind you.
Yes.
There's some excerpts and things that I have read that I just want to just touch on because they
Awesome.
really touch my heart. And one thing that I want to, if you just take just a minute or so to talk about pillar number one that focuses on trust and how that is the foundation for everything. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So we all know that trust is not something that can be built overnight,
No.
but we know how important it is that
Yes.
if we don't have trust, in the absence of trust, we don't have anything.
Right.
We cannot move anything. We can't touch people without having that
Right.
trust.
Right.
So Dr. Johnson and I really thought about what are some ways that we can build trust in a meaningful way. Because some people think if I do one team building activity and that's it for the rest of the year,
Do it.
we've done our part. We're moving
No,
forward. We're going
not
straight
it.
into the data,
Not
right?
gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
That's not the way it
Right.
works,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
we really talk about trust capital and the idea that you're making deposits.
Yes.
Every time you ask someone about how they're doing in a genuine way and actually stop and listen, that's a deposit. Every
Yes.
time you are not staring at your phone as someone is speaking to you,
Come
that's a
on
deposit.
now.
Okay. That's
Woo!
something I've had to work on because I've got that feedback. Rachel, we understand you are busy, but you're at your phone when we're trying to talk to you. I've stopped
Mm.
that behavior. I heard that
Yes.
feedback 3 years ago and stopped that. And I was thankful for
Wow.
it, right? I was
Wow.
thankful that people took the time to tell me what were my blind spots, because that was a
Mm.
total blind spot for me.
Yes.
Here I am thinking I'm doing something good by responding to other people, but I'm not looking at the person directly in front of
Right.
me. That's a
Right.
problem,
Right.
right? Total blind spot. But I've corrected that. And so those are the opportunities where when you have the time to connect genuinely, one
Uh-huh.
on one or with a group of people, we have to
Yes.
take that. We have to
Right.
honor people's time
Right.
and honor that space. Because
Yes.
we also know there's going to be times when we are going to have to take back some things, right? We're going to have to do some withdrawals. Sometimes
Yes.
there's a policy that comes down. We don't have control over it. We have to implement it, right?
Yes.
We're the bearer of bad news. But if we have enough trust deposits, we
Right.
build the relationships that we need to keep the morale high in our schools, to keep teachers and staff in a great
Yes.
place, which then makes our students in a better place. Because when you have
Exactly.
a high functioning staff, high functioning teachers, who are consistently there at your school year to year, then that makes a very strong and foundation and successful school. Even this year, we were just talking about it. We hired two teachers this year, two
Uh-huh.
teachers out of 90 staff members. That's it.
Wow.
Because the majority of
Wow.
our staff, yeah. And one was, someone moved out of the area and so and so
Oh
those
my
were
gosh.
just a kind of normal attrition that
Right.
happens.
Right.
But we're proud of the fact that our teachers love our school, that they want to be here, that the community loves our school, and that the students enjoy being here. That makes a great school. And that's what we all are striving for.
I love that. And what a legacy that you are building. That to be the same school where you went to school and now how you taking it to a whole nother level. Oh my gosh, that is phenomenal. And
Thank you.
congratulations and thanks to you. So there's a couple quotes. One I want to talk about. I want to talk about the relational intelligence, the RQ, if you will. Is it a skill?
It
It's
is
the
a,
skill that makes everything else possible. And I threw
yes.
the extra else in there. But talk to us about that. Why is that important?
Yeah, we wanted to lift up relational intelligence because we know
Yes.
there's a lot of people who have heard of IQ. We know that's,
Yep.
the intellectual, but we also know about EQ, right?
Right.
So that
Right.
is kind of how do we respond internally to things? How do we process others' emotions? But relational intelligence takes it a step further, and
Yes.
it's really about how do we interact with other people to
Uh-huh.
really build systems, to build teams,
That's
to
so
build
good.
collaboration, to build trust. And
Yes.
that's what, when we think about, and I can think about my own, experiences growing up with principals, and principals are so different, right? Each of
Right.
us, each school leader is unique. But the principals, to me, we all go to school to learn the how of the job, right?
Yes.
What do we
Yes.
need to do? How do we implement a policy? We know all of that. But the difference between the principles that I have felt strongest about or
Uh-huh.
have felt that connection, it's because of the investment of who they were and how
Mm.
I felt around them, how they treated me.
Yes.
That
Yes.
to me is what
That is so good.
distinguishes good from
Yes.
great. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
our book really focuses on how do we get to great, right?
Right.
Because each of us are good. We know how to do
Right.
the job.
Right.
We've gone through the basic certifications. That is not in question. But the question is, how do people feel about your work? How do
Yes.
you impact people in a positive way? What's do people want to stay and work for you? Are they working for you because of compliance? Or
Right.
are they working with you because they want to do that? They want to cooperate, they want
Yes.
to collaborate, and they want to contribute. It's a big difference.
There is a big difference.
But we want to move people out of that compliance space
Uh-huh.
because that's where the real work is done.
Rachel, based upon your book, take a moment to give our audience today a call to action. If you had to give them a call to action right here, right now, what would it be?
My call to action is very simple. It is to center people and center joy.
Come on
So
now. Woo!
we know that this is a challenging time in education, but guess
Yes.
what? There have always been challenging times in education.
Right. Right.
When you've been around long enough, now for me in year 21, we have seen challenges and we always move past them. But we've got to center people. We have to
Right.
be back to basics, figuring out what people need and meeting those needs,
Right.
being a servant leader,
Right.
asking people, how are you? Not just a general, how are you doing today? A second ask, no, really, how are you?
Right.
And
Right.
taking the time to listen, to be an empathetic leader, and
Mm.
then centering joy.
Yes.
Again, there are so many things that are outside of our control. So where do we find joy and how do we amplify that?
Yeah.
Each one of our schools are doing amazing things. Every
Yes.
single school, public,
Yes.
private,
Yes.
whatever, is doing amazing work. But if you were just to turn on the TV, you're not going to see that all the time. You're going to
No.
see other things that are
Yes.
amplified. So our
Right.
job as educators is to show the great work. And I love that you said you see the smiles on the students' faces that you see.
Yeah.
I love my job. And I'm going to keep pumping that up because I think
Yeah.
People need to see that. People need to see the wonderful things. If you ask most children when they come home, did you have a great day? They'll say yes, and they'll tell you all the wonderful things that happened during the day. Why
Right.
aren't we talking about that more?
Right.
Why aren't we
Right.
talking about the right things? Why aren't we
Right.
talking about what's going well? So part of my other charge is for us to show the great work and
Yes.
keep doing the great work.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I tell you what, this is the second week in a row that I've heard the word joy. I heard the word joy from Principal L. You
Good.
have said the word joy. I know that in Zaretta Hammond's book, new book that is
Yes.
coming out, forthcoming, here that she talks about bringing the joy back and things. I'm
Yep.
really excited about the fact that she will be a guest and things later this school year.
Awesome.
So joy is another word that is so significant for me. That joy is so absolutely important. But for me, you always know that I will always have hope. Hope keeps me moving forward, regardless
Yes.
of what it looks like, regardless of what it sounds like. I focus on the joy. You know, I've been so enjoyed this our conversation today. There's been so much, so rich. And as I close out our time together, and I hate that we have a time. I try to be cognizant of people's time and honor that. I always say that it doesn't make a difference what it looks like in today's society. These past few days and few weeks and things, I've been working on a keynote that I have coming up for the state of Texas here in the next couple of weeks. And I'm focusing on now is the time because in the
Yes.
fierce urgency of now is the time. So
Yeah.
if we look at this time right now, it doesn't make a difference what's going on. I can't control everything. And guess what? I don't want to control everything. It
Okay.
doesn't make a difference how dark it gets. And there's times when things really get dark in the field of education. There's times when things really get challenging in the field of education, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what storm comes, regardless of what's cut off, who doesn't give us all the things that we need. This is what I always say. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Dr.
Yeah.
Rachel Edoho-Eket, thank you so much for joining me today. And I love the joy that you have brought to the fierce urgency of now in today's schools.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation.
Thank you.